There is no poverty worse than the poverty of belief. The man who sees the world through the cracked lens of limitation is already bankrupt, no matter how full his pockets are. And the one who has nothing but belief in the fire of his spirit, that man is rich beyond measure because he holds the seed of all future fortunes. You have been lied to, conditioned, programmed to think wealth is for others, that money is evil, that ambition is arrogance. They told you to play small, be humble, be grateful for scraps. They taught you to trade time for survival instead of vision for freedom. But now, right now, is your breaking point. Your uprising. The moment you seize the controls of your own mind and reprogram it for unstoppable wealth. Not just riches, not just a little more than enough, but unrelenting, abundant, overflowing wealth. The kind that changes your family tree and shakes the gates of history. And it begins not in your bank account but in your inner world. The vault is inside your mind. The combination is forged from belief, discipline, vision, and relentless execution. This is the revolution of thought that rewrites destiny. You do not get rich. You become rich. It is identity before reality. Belief before manifestation. Cause before effect. Because every fortune ever created, every railroad, every skyscraper, every empire of steel or software, was first nothing but an idea in the mind of a human being who refused to submit to the ordinary. Edison didn't invent the light bulb in a flash of genius. He broke the boundaries of failure 10,000 times to prove the power of persistence. Carnegie didn't inherit his empire. He constructed it from nothing but the grit of his ambition and the clarity of his vision. What made them different wasn't resources. It wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It was the coding of their minds. They had trained themselves to think in terms of power, not permission. They saw obstacles as instruments, time as leverage, and failure as an ingredient in the recipe of wealth. That is the code you must now upload into your operating system. Because if your subconscious mind is wired for scarcity, then every opportunity you touch will decay into dust. But if it's wired for abundance, for boldness, for movement, then even the smallest idea will erupt into gold under your hands. So stop asking how to get rich. Start asking how to become the kind of person who cannot help but create wealth wherever they go. Because true wealth is magnetic. It is a consequence of identity. A side effect of a mind that has been trained to see possibilities where others see walls. Your external world is nothing but a mirror, reflecting the signals of your internal settings. Change the code, change the kingdom. That is not theory, it is law. Universal, unbreakable, and proven by every titan of success from Rockefeller to Jobs to Musk. They were not merely workers of the world. They were architects of reality, writing the script of life instead of reacting to it. And you too are a writer, a builder, a commander of your mental soil. The only question is, what have you allowed to be planted in it? Because your mind is not a fixed piece of machinery. It is programmable, adaptable, moldable like clay under pressure. Every thought you entertain is a blueprint. Every belief you repeat is a builder's hammer, either erecting your palace or reinforcing your prison. And the prison of average is filled with people who never questioned the voices that told them, that's not for you. The prison of mediocrity is decorated with the dreams that died waiting for permission. But not you. Not now. From this moment forward, you are taking back the throne of your own mind. You are deleting the files of fear, rewiring the circuits of self-image, and installing the mindset of unstoppable wealth. And it starts with this single unshakable truth. You were born with the power to choose your thoughts. That power is everything. It is the birthplace of every breakthrough, the origin of every uprising. You cannot control the world, but you can control the program running your mind. And when you do, the world begins to bend in your favor. So feed your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. Read what the masses ignore. Speak what the timid are afraid to say. Surround yourself not with comfort, but with challenge, for steel is only strengthened in the fire. The future belongs to the mentally fierce. Those who do not need the world's approval to begin building. Those who do not need the blueprint, handed to them because they become the architect. Burn this into your bones. Wealth is not an event. It is a process. And every process begins in silence, in thought, in solitude. You are not here to chase money. You are here to become the kind of force that money cannot ignore. That is what it means to reprogram your mind for wealth, to think differently, to move deliberately, to see what others miss, and to refuse the hypnotic suggestion of limitation that the world sells daily like it's gospel. You are not here to survive. You are here to build a legacy that echoes through generations. But understand this, you cannot build legacy on weak foundations. And the weakest foundation of all is a divided mind. A man who doubts himself is already conquered, not by the world, but by the echo chamber of his own hesitation. Every moment you allow fear to negotiate your future, you sell off the deed to your destiny. Wealth is not for the hesitant. It does not flirt with the indecisive. It dances with the bold. And boldness is not recklessness. It is the discipline of belief. It is the clarity of knowing who you are, what you want, and why nothing will stop you. When your mind is locked in that state, wealth becomes not a destination but a reflection. It flows not because you chase it, but because you've become the gravitational force that draws it. That's what happens when belief is no longer a hope, but a command. You must decide, deeply and finally, what story you will live in. Will you wear the hand-me-downs of mediocrity passed down by society? Or will you craft your own myth? One where you are the designer, the builder, the unstoppable force behind a life of significance and wealth? The story you tell yourself is the map your mind follows. So if you tell yourself you're just getting by, your subconscious will create a reality to match. If you speak in the language of lack, your life will reflect it with surgical precision. But if you speak in the frequency of vision, of ownership, of power, then wealth begins to assemble around you because it responds to certainty like iron to a magnet. Speak it. See it. Build it. You must talk like a person who already possesses what they seek, not like someone hoping to get lucky. This is not about arrogance. This is about alignment. It is not wishful thinking. It is strategic becoming. That's why clarity is currency, not dollars, not crypto, not gold. Clarity. Because a man with a clear mind can walk into a storm and still chart a straight course. The world throws distraction like grenades. It wants your attention cheap. It wants you reactive. But clarity is your shield. It is the lens through which every decision becomes a step, not a gamble. If you don't know exactly what you're building, you will build someone else's dream and call it stability. The world is full of men climbing ladders, only to realize they're leaning against the wrong wall. Don't be one of them. Define your mountain, name your empire, and then build toward it with obsession. Because wealth is not given to the wanderer, it is earned by the focused. Every titan of industry had laser vision before they had money. Ford envisioned cars for every man long before he had factories. Disney saw entire worlds in his mind while the banks laughed him out of the room. That is the power of clarity. You see it before it exists, and then you drag it into the world by force. But seeing it is not enough. You must live as if it already belongs to you. That's the paradox of faith-driven success. You walk like the door is already open, even when it's still locked. You build like the funding is already wired, even when your bank account is gasping. Because true wealth is not built by convenience. It is forged in the dark, in silence, while others sleep. It is constructed on discipline, ruthless, daily discipline, the kind that most people flee from because it feels like pain. But it's not pain, it's preparation. Discipline is the down payment for destiny. Every time you rise early, every time you reject distraction, every time you trade comfort for focus, you are laying bricks in your empire. The undisciplined wait for motivation. The wealthy create it. They engineer their days. They don't try to find time. They carve it from stone. This is what separates desire from execution. Dreams without discipline are just illusions. You want wealth? Then you must build systems that move even when you don't feel like it. Emotions are weather. Discipline is climate. One changes. The other endures. You reprogram your mind by locking in habits so deep they override mood, fatigue, and doubt. Systems that protect your focus, automate your growth, and multiply your productivity. Because wealth is not the result of working more, it's the result of working smarter. You don't climb to freedom through hustle alone. You ascend through leverage, through strategy, through the power of compounding decisions. That means everything in your life, your calendar, your relationships, your inputs, must align with the architecture of your goal. Every yes must build your empire. Every no must protect your energy. And every habit must be a servant of your legacy. That's how the wealthy live. Their lives are designed for wealth long before the wealth arrives. And when it does, it's not a surprise. It's an inevitability. So ask yourself, is your daily life designed for wealth or for maintenance? Are your habits sculpting a statue of greatness or building a cage of comfort? Your answer will not be in your words. It will be in your calendar, in your routines, in the decisions you repeat when no one's watching. Because that's where reprogramming happens. Not in moments of hype, but in moments of discipline. In the decision to rise instead of sleep, to read instead of scroll, to act instead of postpone. Wealth does not respond to good intentions. It responds to repeated decisions that compound over time like interest on your future. And if you've been living by default, it's time to flip the switch. Take the driver's seat. Override the autopilot that's been steering you in circles. This is not rehearsal. This is your only shot at building a life that matters. You either program your mind with purpose or the world will program it with noise. And if the world is trying to program you, understand it is not doing so with your prosperity in mind. It is feeding you comfort, scarcity, distraction. Not because it hates you, but because it needs you dependent. The average system is not built for your elevation. It's built for your sedation. To keep you scrolling, spending, working, fearing, surviving. But survival is not your mission. Sovereignty is. And sovereignty begins with awareness. You must become conscious of what you allow into your mental ecosystem. Every word you listen to, every show you consume, every person you allow into your environment, they're either reinforcing your programming for wealth or corrupting it. You cannot watch poverty and think abundance. You cannot speak failure and expect success. Reprogramming is not a weekend project. It's war, a daily battle for the quality of your inputs. Because if you do not curate your mental diet, you will become obese with the opinions of the mediocre. Guard your mind like a fortress. Your thoughts are sacred currency. And like any kingdom, the wealth within is only as safe as the gates without. So ask yourself daily, is this thought making me richer or poorer? Is this belief empowering me or paralyzing me? Is this conversation sharpening me or draining me? You cannot afford to be casual about the energy you allow into your life. Casual minds produce casualty lives. And you were not born to be another statistic in the graveyard of potential. You were born to lead, to own, to rise. But that rise begins in silence, in the daily, invisible discipline of thought management. Speak like the wealthy. Think like the free. Move like the owner of a destiny that no one can steal. That is how you reprogram. Not through hype, but through habit. Not through excitement, but through execution. Because ultimately, your programming is not defined by what you say. It's defined by what you tolerate. If you tolerate laziness, your mind adapts to it. If you tolerate excuses, your brain will automate them. But if you tolerate only excellence, only progress, only effort, then your subconscious will rise to match that standard. That's how champions are made, not by accident, by environment, by repetition, by deliberate design. This is the way the wealthy live. Their minds are temples. Their time is treasure. Their habits are sacred. And their vision is not optional. It's oxygen. You must see your future so clearly that every distraction feels like an insult. See your wealth before it arrives. Feel your future before it's visible. Act as if your legacy is counting on every step, because it is. And when you walk like that, when you think like that, when you breathe like that. The world moves out of your way. But you must understand this. Wealth is not just about money. Money is only one stream in the river of abundance. True wealth is freedom, ownership, impact, power to change lives, power to shape history. You are not reprogramming your mind just to collect digits in a bank account. You're reprogramming it to command reality, to become the kind of person who bends life into alignment with vision. And that takes obsession. Not interest, not passive hope, but a ruthless commitment to transformation. You must want your future more than your present. You must want your legacy more than your lifestyle. And when you do, when that desire becomes bone deep, the universe begins to conspire in your favor. People will call it luck. They'll call it talent. They'll say you had some secret edge. But the real secret is this. You rewired yourself. You became the kind of person wealth is drawn to, because wealth is not a chase. It's a mirror. It reflects your identity. And your identity is simply the sum total of what you've believed and repeated. So if you want to change your outer world, change your internal language. Stop saying if. Start saying when. Stop saying maybe. Start saying inevitable. Your words are spells. Speak them with precision. Declare your direction. Move with intention. And let your actions become the signature of your certainty. You are not here to tiptoe through life. You are not here to beg for permission. You are here to command the storm, to build a fortress of wealth on the bedrock of self-mastery. That is what reprogramming is. It is not motivation. It is mutation. You are not improving slightly. You are becoming unrecognizable to the version of you that settled for less. And yes, the world will resist. It always does. Because the moment you rise, you expose everything around you that refuses to. Your success will offend those committed to excuses. Your growth will agitate those invested in stagnation. Do not apologize. Do not shrink. Do not water down your fire to make others comfortable in their ashes. Wealth requires courage, not just in public but in private. When doubt whispers and fear claws and your old self begs you to come back, that's when the reprogramming is tested. That's when the real battle happens. And if you can win there, in the silence, in the shadows, in the early mornings and late nights, then no force on earth can stop what you're building. Not the market, not the critics, not the economy, not even failure itself. Because you won't just be rich, you'll be inevitable. Because inevitability is not chance, it is architecture. It is the slow, deliberate stacking of inner laws until the outer world has no choice but to obey. That's what you're doing. You're building internal laws. You're setting new rules in your subconscious that declare, I do not break under pressure, I do not flinch in the face of risk, I do not compromise with fear. And when those rules are written in fire, when they become your default programming, life starts to yield. The noise fades, the chaos bends, the distractions lose their grip. Why? Because you are no longer reacting. You are commanding. You are no longer asking life for permission. You are instructing it to reflect the vision you've burned into your soul. You become the signal, not the static. And when you are the signal, you stop chasing opportunity and start attracting it. That's not magic. That's alignment. The world is built on frequency. Every thought, every decision, every action emits a vibration. And those vibrations are not silent. They call out. They pull in. So when you reprogram your mind to vibrate on the level of wealth, power, freedom, you begin to call in experiences, relationships, and outcomes that match that frequency. Not because you're lucky, but because you're tuned. Just like a radio only receives the station it's set to, your life only receives the outcomes you are mentally calibrated for. So ask yourself, what station have you been broadcasting? Fear, doubt, lack, or certainty? Vision, power? The signal you send is the signal you receive. Change the frequency and you change the future. But here's the brutal truth. Most people never reprogram themselves because they never disconnect from their old identity. They try to upload new software while still clinging to corrupted files. You can't become wealthy while still believing you're unworthy. You can't dominate your field while still identifying as average. You can't lead if your mind is still rehearsing every failure from your past. Reprogramming requires a death, a funeral for your former self. You must bury the identity that was built on survival and birth the one built for empire. That means letting go of guilt, letting go of shame, letting go of every story that told you, not now, not possible. Those stories are not sacred. They are sabotage. And if you keep clinging to them, they will choke your future. Let the old code die. You are not your failures. You are not your family's limitations. You are not your upbringing. You are not your bank balance. You are not what they said about you when you were too young to fight back. You are what you decide to become. Starting now. Starting with the next thought. Starting with the next breath. This is your software update. This is the moment you draw a line in the sand and say, from this point forward, I walk like I'm chosen. I think like I'm destined. I move like I'm unstoppable. Because you are. But only if you accept it. Only if you embody it. Only if you stop living like your power is optional. Power is not optional. It is your responsibility. The world does not need more passive souls waiting for signs. It needs fire starters, visionaries, builders of legacies so large they shake the ground they walk on. That can be you, if you choose it. But you must choose it daily. Reprogramming is not a switch, it's a system. It's the compound interest of 1,000 unglamorous decisions. It's reading while others binge. It's building while others sleep. It's staying sharp when the world dulls itself in comfort. And when it gets hard, when resistance shows up in all its forms, you lean in. You press harder. Because pressure is not your enemy. It is your gym. It is your forge. It is the hand that shapes the iron of your will. There will be days where the old program tries to reboot, where fear sounds rational, where small thinking masquerades as practicality. That's when you fight. That's when you override. That's when you remember who the hell you're becoming. You are becoming someone who cannot be broken by inconvenience. Someone who doesn't need hype to move. Someone who rises not for applause, but for purpose. That kind of person, that kind of identity, is wealth. Before the money, before the assets, before the acclaim. Because once you become it internally, the world must reflect it externally. That is the law. That is the code. That is the reality of every self-made titan who ever walked the earth. Look at Carnegie, who started with nothing but rewrote his destiny with vision. Look at Edison, who was told he was slow, yet lit the world with unrelenting faith in invention. Look at Oprah, who was born into chaos, yet reprogrammed herself into a force of global impact. These are not just stories, these are mirrors. Proof that your origin is irrelevant compared to your ownership of the future. The moment you stop waiting for conditions to change and start changing the internal code, everything else shifts. People will feel it. Doors will open. Resistance will bow. Because the universe does not respond to potential. It responds to identity. And identity is a choice, reinforced until it becomes truth. You are not here to live on repeat. You are not here to echo the fears of your past. You are here to become the first of your bloodline to break the code, to rewrite the inheritance, to build a lineage where wealth is not just accumulated but embodied, where your children and their children will not start from survival but from sovereignty. That's what's at stake. Not just money but meaning. Not just riches, but roots. The kind that dig so deep, no storm can shake what you've built. The kind that speak for you long after you've left this earth. That's what legacy is. It is the echo of a reprogrammed mind that refused to settle. And now, as the dust of every excuse begins to fall away, and the smoke of self-doubt clears, what remains is this: a decision. Not a feeling. Not a moment of hype. But a raw, quiet, irreversible decision to never again think like a victim. To never again act like time is infinite. To never again hand your mind to the world and beg it for permission to dream. You do not need permission. You are the permission. You are the key. You are the storm. And every time you choose clarity over confusion, discipline over delay, action over anxiety, the old code breaks. Do you feel that? That silence in your chest, that's not fear. That's space. That's the old wiring losing power. That's the white-hot silence of rebirth, of recalibration, of power returning to its rightful owner, you. And with that power comes responsibility. Not to impress the world, but to impact it. Not to prove your worth, but to use it. Because this isn't just about success. This is about becoming so awake, so focused, so certain that the ground shakes when you speak. This is about walking through fire and coming out forged. This is about commanding life to obey the laws you've etched in sweat and sacrifice. The laws that say, I create wealth because I am wealth. I attract power because I embody power. I rise not by chance but by choice. And now, you choose. You choose to remember that money is energy, and you are the source. That success is not luck, but alignment. That greatness is not genetics. It is decision, duplicated daily. You choose to wake up tomorrow with the mind of a warrior and the soul of a king. You choose to walk like your future is already watching. Because it is. It's waiting at the edge of your next bold move. It's waiting behind the resistance you've been avoiding. It's waiting in the silence you've been afraid to face. And it is ready to unfold, if you are ready to claim it. No more waiting, no more rehearsing failure, no more idolizing hesitation like it's wisdom. You are not here to almost succeed. You are not here to almost become. You are here to dominate, to transcend, to rise so high, the old version of you can't even recognize what you've become. And when that day comes, when the wealth manifests, when the power is in your hands, when your mind is finally your own, you'll know it was never the money you were after. It was the mastery, the power to look in the mirror and say, with unshakable truth, I built this. I programmed this. I became this. And now, the final switch flips. The old code is gone. The new you has arrived. Unstoppable, unshakable, unbreakable. Wealthy by identity, powerful by nature, legendary by design. Now go, reprogram, rise, and never return.